Right. Welcome, everybody, to chapter 18. You can see how much of the progress we've made based on the graphic. We're down here in the red box. Babylon is fallen. We talked about Babylon last week, and we're going to mention it again this week. It's kind of, again, remember that the chapter breaks were put in well later in history. They weren't necessarily changing topics, as often happens in modern books when we change chapters. This is a new vision. This is vision number 12 that we're going to see happen with Paul, or excuse me, with John. So it's a distinct vision kind of introduced by and then. So after this, so we're seeing that it is going to be a change in what he's seeing. As a recap, we saw Revelation 16 that this judgment was happening. And then this 17 and 18, you see kind of a judgment on Babylon from a religious perspective. And tonight we're going to talk about the perspective like a commercial Babylon. And we said Babylon was kind of not only an ancient city, but also representative of man's accomplishments and man's world and man's cities and man's government and how we men have run the world compared to God's design. So we have our own goals and standards and what we hold dear. And that's what's going to be punished in Revelation 18 is all the world's values taken down. We saw the start of tribulation up here in chapter 5. We've been living through and reading through tribulation. We're now at the cusp where we're going to be seeing the end of tribulation. This is the second half of the tribulation called the Great Tribulation, when much of the devastation is going to take place. And as I mentioned in green, next week we'll see finally that marriage and the supper celebration and Christ appearing on the horse. So we'll get to that next week. A brief summary of Revelation 18, it is the collapse of the world's economic and material system. So this is where everything that man has built up to man's standards, like what is the measure of a man? The more money a man has, the bigger his house, the more expensive his car, that is held up by our economy, by our culture as a successful man. We don't see for teachers who give instruction to children. We don't see pastors who dedicate their life to sharing the world. Those are not successful people through the world's eyes. So that's what we're going to see destroyed tonight in Revelation 18 is that upside down backward system that we've all grown up in. We're going to see the earth mourn. The earth is going to be sad. Why is this happening? We don't want this to happen. But heaven, with their heavenly perspective, is going to be rejoicing. They're going to be glad to see the collapse of this evil, broken system that has its values upside down. God's judgment is going to fall. It is going to be righteous, and it prepares the way for Christ's return in chapter 19. Verse by verse, the first 8 verses, we're going to be introduced to an angel so fresh from God's presence that he lights up the surroundings when he comes down. He's literally glowing with God's glory. And he's going to declare, fallen is man's design. Fallen is the city of Babylon or Babylon the Great. So all the things that represent our corrupt world, wealth and the arrogance that goes with that, and idolatry, where we worship things, we worship creation, not the creator. Those are the things that are going to be called out and punished in this chapter. There's a personification of this behavior. They're going to call it she, Babylon. They're going to talk about it as being now a dwelling place for demons. You don't even want to go there now that we've rendered our judgment. You can see in the smoking, billowing, burning imagery in this one picture. And there's this voice that calls out and says, "Come out of her, my people." So in that, we're going to realize that some people who were, if you believe in the rapture, not raptured, but lived through the tribulation, they did come to the realization that Jesus is Lord, and they have been among those that are going to be saved from this great tribulation. And they're called out by this angel. In 9 to 19, all the wealthy kings of the earth, all the billionaires, all the moguls, all the ones that had wonderful political power, they mourn. They hate to see that the system that they mastered and grew up in and enjoyed CEO level pay, they're the ones who are going to lament this experience. They're going to see that they can't sell their gold, silk, and spices anymore. There's no market for it. Um, the shipmasters and sailors have no way of, the truck drivers, if you will, have no commerce to carry back and forth. The entire system is collapsing, and all of them are um, sad to see that in just a blink of an eye, in literally in 1 hour, all of this is fallen. As we wrap up the chapter in 20 to 24, we're going to hear heaven rejoicing over the downfall and saying, hey, finally, justice. This is the way it's supposed to be. You told us to love one another and love God with our whole heart, mind, and soul. Finally, that's going to come true. And this giant millstone is going to come down, is going to be thrown into the sea and will never be found again. So everything is going to finally come to this permanent ruin, and all the deception, like luxury and sorcery, are going to be exposed. In fact, I remember giving a sermon years ago that included the word luxury. And, if I say to most people today, oh, this was luxurious, you think good things. You think, oh, hey, that must be great. Luxury is a good thing, right? Well, the term actually comes from the Latin to mean excess, extravagance, and overindulgence, kind of almost, a guilty pleasure. Let them eat cake kind of an attitude. So the idea of luxury in our modern world being something we all strive for, you can see the beautiful home and the Bentley in the back, image there. It wasn't until, you know, early modern Europe did it shift to now meaning a positive term. But if we look at our Bible, Ezekiel, Amos, Isaiah, Luke, James, Timothy, and of course in Revelation 18, we're going to see that the behavior of living in luxury when others do not is part of this condemnation that is going to be displayed in chapter 18. There's been a number of books, story books that came out. What would Jesus drive? Those kinds of things. This is not a lesson to say, we need to all be paupers and we need to be poor and we need to take a vow of poverty. But we have to have a heart of giving and giving with our love and attention and sharing in the wealth that we've gotten, because nothing we have, none of the gifting of I work hard or I'm smart or I'm good with math or I'm physically strong, all those are gifts from God to be used to tend to his kingdom. And that's what we hope we get out of our study and this great warning issued by John in chapter 18. That's what I have for now. We'll stop here.